Hello students, hope you all are doing well. In the previous video, we have learned about sharpening spatial filters. So in chapter 3, intensity transformation and spatial filtering is completed. So today we are going to start chapter 4, filtering in the frequency domain of unit 2, image enhancements. So outline of the today's lecture, Fourier transform and filtering in Fourier transform domain. So, the French mathematician Jean-Baptiste Joseph Fourier was born in 1768 in the town of Auxerre, about midway between Paris and Dijon. So, the contribution for which he is most remembered was outlined in a memoir in 1807 and published in 1822. In this book, La Théorie Analytique d'Arrêt Chaleur, the analytic theory of heat. This book was translated into English 55 years later by Freeman. So basically, the Fourier's contribution in this field states that any periodic function can be expressed as the sum, sines, and or cosines of different frequencies, each multiplied by a different coefficient. So it can be known as Fourier series. It does not matter how complicated the function is, if it is periodic and satisfies some mild mathematical conditions, it can be represented by such a sum. So, Fourier series. So, any periodic function can be expressed as the sum of sines and cosines of different frequencies, each multiplied by a different coefficients. And Fourier transform, any function that is not periodic can be expressed as the integral of sines and or cosines multiplied by Weygin function. So this is now taken for granted, but at the time the first appeared the concept that complicated function could be represented as the sum of simple sines and cosines was not at all intuitive. We can see that in figure. So it is not surprising that Fourier's ideas were met initially with skepticism. So functions that are not periodic can be expressed as the integral sines and cosines multiplied by a Weygin function. So the formulation in this case is a Fourier transform, and its utility is greater than the Fourier series in many theoretical and applied disciplines. So both representations share important characteristics that the function expressed in either a Fourier series or transform can be reconstructed completely via an inverse processes with no loss of information. So this is one of the most important characteristics of these representations, because it allows us to work in the Fourier domain and then return the original domain of the function without losing any information. So this is the figure. The function at bottom is the sum of four functions above it. So Fourier's idea in 1807 that periodic functions could be represented as a weighted sum of sines and cosines was met in skepticism. Now the preliminary concepts. So first is complex number. So complex number C is defined as C is equal to R plus JI. So here R and I was a real numbers and J is an imaginary number equal to the square of -1. So that is J equal to square root of -1. So R denotes the real part of the complex number and I is an imaginary part. So real numbers are subset of complex number in which I is equal to 0. So the conjugate of a complex number C denoted C star and it is defined as C star equal to R minus Ji. So the complex number can be viewed geometrically as a point in a plane which is known as complex plane, whose abscissa is the real axis, means the values of R, and whose ordinate is the imaginary axis, means I. So that is the complex number R plus Ji is point Ri in the rectangular coordinate system of the complex plane. So sometimes it is useful to represent complex numbers in popular coordinates. So here C is equal to C cos theta plus J sin theta. So here C is equal to under root r square plus I square in the length of the vector extending from the origin of the complex plane to point Ri, and theta is the angle between the vector and the real axis. So drawing a simple diagram of the real and complex axis with vector in the first quadrant will be then tan theta is equal to I by R, or theta is equal to arctan into I upon R. So the I and R can be positive and negative independently. So we need to be able to obtain angles in the full range. Range will be minus pi to pi. So this is accomplished simply by keeping track of the sign of I and R when the computing theta. So here MATLAB provides some functions. So here we using Euler's formula, which is C is equal to C into e raised to j theta. So here C and theta are defined as above. So for example, the polar representation of the complex number 1 plus j2 is root 3 into e raised to j theta, where theta is equal to 64.4 degree or 1.1 radians. So now Fourier series. So as we see earlier, a function ft of a continuous variable t that is periodic with period t can be expressed as the sum of sines and cosines multiplied by appropriate coefficients. This sum, known as Fourier series, has form ft is equal to epsilon n equal to minus theta to minus infinite to infinite. So here c into c n into e raised to j 2 pi n by t into t. So here cn is equal to 1 upon t, limit is minus t by 2 to plus t by 2, ft e raised to minus j 2 pi n up to t into t, and where n is equal to 0 to plus or minus 1 plus or minus 2 up to infinite. So these are the coefficients. Now impulses and their shifting property. So central to the study of linear systems and the Fourier transform is the concept of an impulse and its shifting property. So a unit impulse of the continuous variable t located at t equal to 0, which is denoted as delta t. It is defined as delta t is equal to infinite if t equal to 0 and 0 if t is not equal to 0. So an impulse is not a function in the usual sense. A more accurate name is a distribution or generalized function. So however, one often finds in the literature the names impulse function, delta function, and direct delta function despite of the Minsommer. So here it is constrained also to satisfy the identity minus infinite to infinite delta t dt is equal to 1. So physically, now if we interpret t as a time, an impulse may be viewed as a spike of an infinity amplitude and zero duration having unit area. So an impulse has the so-called shifting property with respect to integration. So integration is minus infinite to infinite ft delta t is equal to f0, which provides that ft is a continuous at t equal to 0, a condition typically satisfied in practice. So shifting simply yields the value of a function ft at the location of impulse where the origin t is equal to 0. So here ft is into delta t into t minus 0 dt is equal to ft0, so which yields the value of the function at the impulse location t0. So for the instance, if ft equal to cos t using the impulsor delta t minus pi, so the result will be f pi is equal to cos pi is equal to minus 1. The power of the shifting concept will become quite evident shortly. So let x express the discrete variable unit. The unit discrete impulse delta x serves the same purposes in the context of the discrete system as the impulse delta t does when working with continuous variables. So it is denoted as delta x is equal to if 1 if x is equal to 0 and 0 if s is not is equal to 0. So this definition also satisfies the discrete equivalent. So here limit is x is equal to minus infinite to infinite, then delta x is equal to 1. So this shifting property for a discrete variable has the form x is equal to minus infinite to infinite fx delta x is equal to f0. So more generally, using a discrete impulse located at x equal to x0, so the equation will be then epsilon x equal to minus delta x to up to x fx x minus x0 is equal to fx0. So as before, see the shifting property simply yields the value of the function at the location of impulse. So here an impulse train S del t into t defined as the sum of infinitely many periodic impulses del t unit apart. So here is the figure of an impulse train. So here is the value of delta, which is 0 to minus here minus 3 delta t to plus 3 delta t. So it shows an impulse train. The impulses can be continuous or discrete. Now the Fourier transform of the function one continuous variable. So the Fourier transform of the continuous function ft of a continuous variable t denoted as the Fourier transfer function of ft is defined as the equation Fourier transfer function f of t is equal to minus infinite to infinite f t into e raised to minus j2 pi mu t, where mu is also is a continuous variable. Because t is integrated out, the Fourier transform function t is a function only of mu. So we denoted this fact explicitly by writing Fourier transform as ft is equal to f mu. So here f mu is equal to minus infinite to infinite f into t is e raised to minus j 2 pi mu t. So conversely, given f mu, we can obtain ft back using the inverse Fourier transform. So here is the simple function given in both direction. So here f mu is equal to minus infinite to infinite ft into e raised to minus j 2 pi mu t is equal to limit has minus w by 2 to plus w by 2 a e raised to j 2 pi mu t. So we can get minus a upon j2 pi mu into e raised to minus j2 pi mu t. Limit is minus wt to plus or minus w by 2 to plus w by is equal to a j2 pi w a upon j2 pi w into e raised to j pi mu w minus e raised to minus j pi mu w. So the answer is aw into sine pi mu w upon pi mu w. So we can get here its bits Fourier transform and the spectrum. So all the functions extend to infinity in both directions. So we used the trigonometric identity as sine theta is equal to e raised to j theta minus e raised to minus j theta upon 2j. In this case, the complex term of the Fourier transform combined nicely into the real sine function. So the result in the last step of the preceding expression is known as sine C function. So here f mu, the Fourier transform of the unit impulse located at the origin, follows from the above equation. So f mu is equal to minus theta up to theta, minus infinite to infinite, delta t into e raised to minus j 2 pi mu t. This is the Fourier transform of an impulse and of an impulse train. So we can get here e raised to minus j2 mu pi mu 0. So we can get here answer 1. So the Fourier transform of a unit impulse located at t is equal to t0. So here the third step follows from the shifting property. So thus we see that the Fourier transform as impulse located at the origin of the spatial domain is constant in the frequency domain. So similarly, the Fourier transform of the impulse located in t is equal to t0 is f mu is equal to limit is minus infinite to infinite del t into t minus 0 t minus t0 into e raised to minus j2 pi mu t dt. So we get e raised to minus j2 pi mu t0. So the answer is cos into 2 pi mu t 0 minus j sine into 2 pi mu t 0. So here the impulse train s del t into t is periodic with the period delta del t. So we know that it is expressed as a Fourier series. So here s del t into t is equal to limit is n is equal to minus infinite to infinite delta t minus n del t. So with the reference of this figure, we see the integral in the interval minus t by 2 to del t by 2 plus del t by 2 encompasses only the impulse of s del t into t that is located at the origin. So therefore the preceding equation becomes Cn is equal to 1 upon del t, limit is minus del t minus upon 2 to plus del t upon 2 delta t into e raised to minus j 2 pi n upon del t into t. So here we get the answer 1 upon del t raised to e raised to 0 is equal to 1 upon del t. So the Fourier series expression then becomes s del t is equal to limit is minus infinite to infinite into c n e raised to j 2 pi n upon del t is equal to 1 upon del t minus infinite to infinite e j 2 pi n upon del t into t. So the Fourier transformation of uh, here is e raised to j into 2 pi n upon del t into t, which has limit minus infinite to infinite into e j raised to 2 pi n upon del t into t into e raised to minus j 2 pi mu t. So range is minus infinite to infinite e raised to j 2 pi n upon del t into t, then e is equal to minus j e raised to minus j 2 pi mu t. So finally we can solve this equation and get the answer 1 upon del t epsilon minus n is equal to minus infinite to infinite e raised to j 2 pi n upon del t into t. So we can get answer here e raised to j 2 pi n t upon del t. Now Fourier transform impulse trains, which will be here S mu denote the Fourier transform of the periodic impulse train S del t into t. So we can get 1 upon del t of Fourier transform n limit is minus infinite to infinite e raised to j 2 pi n upon del t into t. So finally we get 1 upon del t limit is minus infinite to infinite del into mu minus n upon delta t. Now Fourier transform and convolution. So convolution of the two continuous instead of a summation, the convolution of these two functions denotes as before by the operator star, which is defined as ft star ht is equal to integrate a minus infinite to infinite f t h into t minus t. So when the minus sign accounts for the flipping just mentioned, t is the displacement needed to slide one function pass to the other, and t is the dummy variable that is integrated out. So we assume for now the function extend from minus infinite to infinite. So here we get minus infinite to infinite ft into h mu e raised to minus j upon 2 mu tr. So here the term inside the brackets in the Fourier transform of h t minus t, we show later in the next topic that the transformation function h t into h into t minus t is equal to h mu into e raised to minus j 2 pi mu t. So where h mu is the Fourier transform of ht using the fact in the preceding equation, which gives us h mu into f mu. So we refer to the domain of t as the spatial domain and the domain of mu as the frequency domain. The preceding equation tells us that the Fourier transform of the convolution of two functions in the spatial domain is equal to the product in the frequency domain of Fourier transform of the two functions. So if we have the product of two transformation, we can obtain the convolution in the spatial domain by computing the inverse. So the Fourier transform, the ft star ht and h mu fu are the Fourier transform pair. So this result is one half of the convolution theorem, and it is written as ft star ht is equal to h mu and f mu. So the double arrow is used to indicate that the expression on the right is obtained by taking the Fourier transform of the expression on the left. So while the expression on the left is obtained by taking the inverse Fourier transform of the expression of the right. So following is a similar development would be result in the other half of the convolution theorem, which is ft into ht is equal to h mu star f mu, which states the convolution in the frequency domain is analogous to multiplication in the spatial domain, the two being related by the forward inverse Fourier transform respectively. Thank you.